Everyone is telling you cold email is dead. Your inbox is a graveyard of bad pitches. They'll tell you that LinkedIn is where the real conversations happen. They'll tell you cold email is for spammers and dinosaurs. But what if the data shows the complete opposite? What if the very reason people think it's dead is what makes it so powerful for those who know the secret? I'm Kevin Patrick from Astris Partners, and we've generated 8 figures in pipeline for B2B companies using exactly what I'm about to show you. We maintain a 95% plus inbox deliverability rate, while the industry average sits at 50 to 60%, and our campaigns consistently achieve 5 to 30% reply rates compared to the industry standards of 0.5 to 0.7. So in this video, I'm not going to give you fluff or motivational hype. I'm going to break down the operational math and the hard data that proves why cold email is still the most scalable, predictable, and cost-effective way to fill your pipeline with high-ticket B2B meetings. For founder, C-level, VP of sales, we're going to cover the real cost, the actual limitations of the channels everyone else is obsessed with, and exactly how to build a client acquisition system that works reliably in 2025 and beyond. So let's start with the myth of the dead channel. Let's be honest, as a founder, a C-level, or a sales leader, you're under constant pressure to build a predictable pipeline. You need a system, a machine that you can tune and rely on to generate meetings, opportunities, and ultimately revenue. It's the lifeblood of your company. And when you look around for answers, you're bombarded with conflicting advice. You've probably heard the horror stories. Your own inbox is likely a wasteland of terrible, generic spray and pray emails. So when someone says cold email is dead, it obviously feels true. You've seen the evidence yourself. People point to declining reply rates, with some industry benchmarks showing averages as low as 0.5 to 0.7%. They talk about how hard it is even to land in the primary inbox anymore. And they're not entirely wrong. Bad cold email is dead. It has been for a while. The lazy, volume at all cost approach of 2015 is gone, and it's never coming back. And to make things even more intimidating, deliverability has gotten significantly harder. In early 2024, Gmail and Yahoo rolled out strict new sender requirements. For bulk senders, defined by Google as those sending over 5,000 messages a day to users, you now need a whole alphabet soup of technical authentications like KIM and one-click unsubscribe and incredibly low spam complaint rate just to play the game. In fact, Google advises senders to keep their spam complaint rates below 0.1% and avoid ever reaching 0.3%. Now, this is the point where most people give up. They see these hurdles and conclude the channel is broken. They pivot entirely to LinkedIn or start hiring armies of cold callers. But this is where the strategic advantage lies. These new rules haven't killed email. They've professionalized it. They've built a protective moat around the channel, keeping out spammers and amateurs. For those who are willing to learn the new rules of engagement, cold email isn't just alive, it's actually more effective than ever because the inbox is finally getting cleaner. So before we dive into the math of email, let's take a hard, objective look at the 2 major channels everyone claims are superior. You've got LinkedIn and cold calling. So let's first talk about LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn feels incredibly productive, right? You're building a brand, a personal brand. You're connecting and engaging. It's visible work. But when you try to use it as a scalable top of funnel outreach machine, you hit a wall, and you hit it pretty fast. Now, LinkedIn knows its platform is valuable, so it puts strict, though unpublished, limits on your activity. For instance, most regular users are held to an estimated 100 connection requests per week, though this can vary by account. If you get too aggressive or use unapproved automation, you face a very real policy enforcement risk of getting your account restricted, which can be devastating if that's your primary channel. Now, think about the scalability. LinkedIn outreach scales linear with headcount. So to send more messages, you need more people spending more time manually clicking, connecting, and typing, or even if you automate it. It's a game of basically brute force and not leverage. And if you think about InMail, you get a limited number of credits per month that can vary by plan, sometimes as few as 5 or 15 or up to 50 for Sales Navigator. And that's not cheap either. You can't build the kind of automated multi-step follow-up sequence that are, generally quite crucial for getting a response. And you send your InMail and then you basically hope. The biggest issue, though, is the speed of learning. Because of the low volume caps, trying to test a new value proposition on LinkedIn is really slow. It can take months to gather enough data to know if your messaging is working. In a competitive market, that lack of speed is a killer. Now, let's turn to the cold calling conundrum. So there's no doubt that a live phone conversation with a qualified prospect is incredibly valuable. It's a high bandwidth channel perfect for building rapport and handling complex objections. As a primary tool for top of funnel outreach at scale, it's inefficient. the cost per lead for cold calling is notoriously high. It's not just the cost of dialing software and data, it's the human capital required. You're paying for every single dial, whether it connects, goes to voicemail, or gets screened by a gatekeeper. And just like with LinkedIn, testing is slow and difficult. Sales rep can spend a whole day on the phone and maybe have 5 meaningful conversations. How do you A/B test a new script with that kind of volume? It's nearly impossible to get clean, statistically significant data quickly. You're relying on anecdotal feedback rather than hard numbers. So while both LinkedIn and cold calling have an important place in a sales strategy, they are fundamentally flawed as your primary engine for scalable, predictable lead generation. They are either too slow, too expensive, or too constrained by platform limits. So this now brings us back to email. To understand why it remains the superior channel for scalable outreach, you have to stop thinking about it anecdotally and start thinking about it mathematically. The case for cold email rests on 3 pillars: unmatched scale, superior cost effectiveness, and unparalleled speed and control. So if we start with unmatched scale, with a properly configured outreach system, the volume you can achieve with email literally dwarfs every other channel. This is a sophisticated operation. It involves using multiple domains that have been carefully warmed up over several weeks, domains and mailboxes. And depending on the infrastructure that you decide to go with, you may be able to send anything from 5 emails a day to 50 emails a day per inbox. At Astris Partners, we take the approach of utilizing a lot of mailboxes, I'm talking hundreds of mailboxes for clients, and sending a small number of emails per inbox to have the capacity to hit thousands of emails a day when we get to scaling. And this conservative approach protects vendor reputation while maintaining massive scale. When you have this infrastructure in place, say with 10, 20, or even 50 sending inboxes working for you, you can systematically reach hundreds or even thousands of highly targeted prospects every single day. Now, if you compare that to LinkedIn's estimated weekly cap of 100 connection requests, it's not even in the same league. So let's now talk about superior cost effectiveness. And this is where operational math gets really compelling. While you may have heard of email marketing's legendary ROI, it's important to distinguish between opt-in marketing and cold outreach. Still, the underlying principle of economic efficiency is absolutely true for cold email. The cost to scale a cold email operation is typically marginal compared to channels that scale with headcount. Now, once you've invested in the domains, mailboxes, the sending software, and the list acquisition, the cost to send an email to your 1001 prospect is virtually identical to the cost of sending to your first. The system scales with technology, not with people. Contrast that with cold calling or LinkedIn outreach. To double your output, you often have to double your team, which is doubling your largest expense, payroll. With email, you simply load another list into the machine. This is exactly the approach we use at Astris Partners to deliver the output of 3 SDRs for the cost of 1. So for any founder C-level or sales leader trying to build a predictable pipeline on a reasonable budget, this distinction is absolutely everything. And finally, let's talk about speed, control, and measurability. This is the pillar, in my opinion, that truly separates the professionals from the amateurs. Cold email is the ultimate channel for rapid data-driven learning. Now, think about hypothesis testing. Let's say you're a founder and you're not sure which pain point or observation resonates most with your market. With email, you can segment your list, you can launch multiple campaigns and variations at once. And typically within a week, maybe 2, you can have statistically significant data on reply rates, positive reply, meeting bookings. And this speed to insight is almost impossible on any other channel. You can learn more in 7 days of emailing than you can in 3 months of LinkedIn outreach. And at Astris Partners, we've used this exact approach with cold email to secure meetings with decision makers and deals with companies like Amazon, Google, Pfizer, and Walmart. In fact, one of our healthcare clients generated a $250,000 opportunity from a single email sequence using these principles. And the speed of learning and optimization is what makes this possible. Then there's the power of follow-up. But here's where most people get it wrong. Our data shows that 87% of responses come within the first 2 emails, making longer sequences ineffective and potentially harmful to deliverability. So I would say keep your sequences to a maximum of 3 emails. This isn't about nurturing prospects for months. It's about creating immediate relevance and urgency. And finally, consider complex high-ticket sales. You're almost never just selling to one person. You need to engage an entire buying committee. An email makes orchestrating this multi-threading pretty straightforward. You can create role-specific sequences and systematically engage multiple stakeholders within your target account. And when you get positive replies, it's very easy to then track that automatically into your CRM. And trying to manage that level of coordinated outreach through, say, individual LinkedIn profiles can be a logistical nightmare. By the way, if you're getting value from this operational breakdown and you're starting to see why the top B2B teams still rely so heavily on cold email, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. We go deep on these kinds of data-driven strategies for building a predictable pipeline every single week. So it's clear that email is scalable, it's cost-effective, and it's controllable. But all of that is meaningless if your emails land in spam. As we discussed, the rules of the games have changed. Winning with email in 2025 requires operational excellence. This isn't a nice to have, it's the ticket to entry. So first, let's talk about the new rules of deliverability. Since the Gmail and Yahoo updates in early 2024, your technical setup is non-negotiable, especially when you're doing cold outreach. Here's your minimum checklist: proper authentication, right? You must have SPF, DKIM, DMARC records correctly configured for all your sending domains and mailboxes. This is how you prove to mailbox providers that you are who you say you are. You also need to make sure your spam complaint is as low as possible. Google and Yahoo enforces best practice to stay under a 0.1% complaint rate to maintain a good send reputation. And then your emails must include a clear one-click or some way for them to easily unsubscribe. You want to make that as clear and easy as possible. And from a domain inbox warming point of view, you can't take a brand new domain, create some mailbox and send email straight away. You need to follow a gradual ramp-up process, often over several weeks, starting with low volume and then slowly increasing. This builds a positive and authentic reputation. These aren't just suggestions, they're foundational requirements that we implement for every Astris Partners client from day one. Technical setup is only half the battle. Strategy is what truly drives results. You need to think about hypersegmentation. The era of the 50K person generic email blast is over. The future is small, tightly segmented and highly relevant list. Segment your prospects by industry, company, size, role, technology use, recent trigger, business event signals. Quality and relevance will always beat raw quantity. Now, here's something that people get wrong. You want to keep it short and simple. Keep emails short and concise, right at a grade 5 reading level. Use simple, clear language that gets straight to the point, easy on the eyes, and focus every email on specific outcomes for the recipient, ideally using hard numbers. Instead of words like improve efficiency, which means nothing, say reduce processing time by 40% or save 15 hours per week. And most importantly for me, relevancy that actually matters. Forget simply using the first name and company name tokens, right? More important than personalization is relevancy. You might reference a recent podcast they were on, a comment they made on LinkedIn, or a new initiative their company just launched. Here's the critical part. You need to explain why that trigger observation is relevant to why you're reaching out to them. Always ask yourself, why should they care? When the person receives this email, why should they care? And why have you specifically reached out to them right now? That's what you need to explain in your short 50 to 75 word email. And remember to keep your sequence to a maximum of 3 emails. Your sequence should tell a story. Your first email could introduce the problem with a specific outcome. The second provides social proof, say with hard numbers. The third creates urgency with a clear call to action, a soft call to action. Test everything, right? Test your subject lines, your call to action. The robust analytics and email platforms can give you a closed loop system to continually optimize your performance. Now, after all of this, am I telling you to delete your LinkedIn profile and throw out your office phone? Absolutely not. That would be silly and absolutely foolish. The smartest sales teams don't think in terms of email versus LinkedIn. They think email and LinkedIn. They build a hybrid omnichannel strategy where each channel plays to its strengths. And here's what a potential winning playbook could look like. Email is the backbone. There's no question about it. Use cold email as your primary engine for scale, speed, and systematic market coverage. It's the workhorse that ensures you are consistently reaching every potential prospect in your market with a message you can test and control. LinkedIn for air cover and warming. So before and during your email sequence, you can use LinkedIn for light touch engagement. For high priority accounts, you can have your reps view the prospect's profile or engage with some of their posts. So this isn't about a pitch. It's an air cover. It builds familiarity. So when your emails land, your name is recognizable. And this simple act of warming up a prospect can materially lift your reply rates from, say, 12 to 15%. And what I would say for the phone is, it is not for prospecting at the top of the funnel. It's for converting interest mid-funnel. When you're tracking software showing that a prospect has replied or showing intent, that's when you want to pick up the phone. This is a high intent signal. This is when you pick up and you're no longer making a cold call, but you're making a highly informed, warm follow-up call. And this email-led omnichannel approaches is how we advise and how we help our clients go from seeing outbound and cold email be their worst channel to becoming the best channel. And it's about working together and finding what's going to be the most successful approach for your business. So, is cold email dead? Only if you're lazy. Only if you're doing it like it's 2015. For the founders and sales leaders who are serious about building a predictable, scalable machine for booking high-ticket meetings, the operational math is crystal clear. When executed with technical precision and strategic discipline, cold email remains the absolute backbone of effective B2B outreach. It delivers unmatched scale, superior cost effectiveness, and the critical speed to insight you need to outmaneuver your competition. LinkedIn and cold calls are essential, powerful tools, but they are specialists. They are the scalpel, not the engine. For consistent volume, for rapid learning, and for the operational rigor needed to predictably fill a pipeline, email is the engine that drives the entire system. At Astris Partners, we've proven this short sequence, high impact methodology across thousands of campaigns, generating 8 figures in pipeline and 7 figures in new revenue for our B2B clients. We've shown that for the cost of 1 SDR, you can get the output of 3 while maintaining 95% plus inbox deliverability. And if you want to see how we could apply this email system to your specific market, book a complimentary strategy call using the link in the description. We'll talk about your current approach and see if we're a good fit to work together. And if we are, we'll even put together a custom outbound growth plan showing you exactly what we do in the first 90 days of a partnership. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.